Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. We are once again talking about the Little Women movie, the 2019, not 1989. What was that? I think it's because next week our episode is 1984, so that's what just broke my brain for a second there. So if you want to read 1984, please be sure to do so before next week so you can avoid spoilers and, get the full experience, I guess. I don't want anyone to ever get spoilers, so please be sure to read before next week, unless you don't care about spoilers. Then live to your heart's content. Do whatever you want. It's a free world. So 1984 is next week. We'll have quite a few episodes on that. Some other cool, fun housekeeping things. We do have a Patreon account now, so if you want to help support this podcast, I would really appreciate it. It's over on Patreon at Barely Bookish. We also stream on Twitch, so if you like Pikmin and soon Zelda Breath of the Wild, and also Among Us, we do Among Us on Fridays every day at 6 p.m. Eastern, or every week, I guess, at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then the rest of the schedule is kind of chaotic, so to know when I'm streaming, just go over to twitch.tv/barelybookish, and then you will get the first notifications whenever I do go live. Or if you check Twitter, that's when I will announce what days I'm going live. So yeah, that's basically all I have for you guys. We are once again joined by Kendra and Jess from the West Coast Booksters podcast on this episode. They aren't here for this little intro just because this episode was really, really long, and I thought it was going to just be one episode, but it was too long, so it became 2 episodes. So that's why they're not here, but I'm sure they would say hi, and I hope you all enjoy this episode. And without further ado, we're going to get right into Little Women. Okay, so anyways, moving on. She didn't tell Mr. Bear that she was leaving, and in this movie they made it super dramatic so that she left right after that big fight they had. Like literally hours after they had that giant fight, and then she just is like, "Peace, A-Town," and then leaves. And I'm like, okay, but why? Like, I guess that makes it more like, it makes more sense that he didn't contact her. They sped up this timeline a lot too. Like, there was supposed to be like a 3-year break between her conversation and flirting with Mr. Bear to when he returns, and like they made it so that it was like 2 weeks.
That's
and
cutting out all the boring bits.
I know, they're like, she doesn't need to be single that long. Anyway, speed it up.
Send them to the beach for 2 days.
Literally. I know.
I'm
Make
really
it more
confused.
like an us vacation.
Or should we wait till the very end to talk about this part? Because I was really confused at the end.
We'll talk about it when we get there. I'm trying to stay in order. It's not working, but it's fine. So, and then in this, Aunt March originally does ask Joe. And she says, "Oh, you'll come with me next time I go to Europe." And Joe's like, "Oh, cool, great. Like, that'll be so much fun." And then, like, Aunt March is like, "JK, never mind. Amy, let's go." Like, what? No wonder that Joe's absolutely, like, distraught about this. Like, if she's really thinking, "Oh, we've had a conversation, I'm going," when she goes, and then Aunt March is just like, "Just kidding, I am not going to do that anymore." Like, for what?
I think this also falls under, because it's Joe narrating, and they didn't cover the fact that Beth got sick with scarlet fever and Amy had to be removed from the house because that was quarantining them, since all the other girls had scarlet fever and they had to get Amy out. So she went and lived with Aunt March.
Yeah, for like a day in the movie, I mean.
Right, yeah. It showed 1 day of her painting.
Yeah.
And their conversation, that it was like, okay, that was okay.
So random.
Yes.
Literally.
And then ta-da, the wedding, and there they go.
Yeah. And like the thing too is, in the book, like the entire time Amy's there, Aunt March has her doing chores, and then like now it's like, oh, Amy, you're just painting, and when you have a pre moment, can you come spend some time with me? And Amy's like, oh, sure, Auntie. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I guess that Amy just gets the picture perfect life. And then her aunt being like, you have to be the one to provide for the rest of your family and marry a rich, young, sweet 10-year-old.
You just dropped her to 10.
She just gets younger and younger. I mean, you have no idea how old she's supposed to be. Like, the thing is that this conversation took place when she was like, she's somewhere between like 12 to 14. So she's like a kid, you know? And like telling a kid, hey, the rest of your sisters are garbage, so you should probably start getting married because you're the only one that's pretty. I'm like, hey, okay, pedophile aunt. That's not a great conversation to have with a impressionable child. Okay, great. I'm glad you did that. For what reason?
Amy's face was priceless during that moment. She was like, wait, what?
Yeah. And he was like, who, me?
And then her aunt was like, oh, and by the way, if you're a good girl, you get my ring. And she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Great. Love that for some reason. I don't understand. So that happened. Anyways, them playing Parliament in that movie was so extra with all their like voices and like Lori, I mean, jumping out of the closet and them being like hum, 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 with their little pipes. And I just thought it was so funny. But it's even funnier because they didn't de-age anyone. So at that time, like Meg is supposed to be like max 16, and like this entire thing's coming around and it's like all these 20 to 25-year-olds playing like this, and I was like, okay, sure, sounds great.
I felt that was accurate on how they would have play acted like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that scene with not de-aging the actresses and Amy's scene with her hand, and as she's like, as they're leaving the house and she's waving her hand, thank you for my hand. I'm like, you are like, the actress did a good job portraying a much younger child, but it looked awkward.
It does look really awkward, yeah. Or it's just like there's a couple scenes where like Amy's like throwing a small temper tantrum, and it's like it's weird because the actress is like 20, you know, so it looks really weird. And then, you know, you have to remember, oh, she's supposed to be 12, you know, she's supposed to be a baby, a child, an infant, if you will. And they have this older actress just playing it, and it's just really, really weird.
I don't know. I see temper tantrums online all the time of older women. They
Yeah,
call them Karens. No, I'm just joking.
There's some who say
now.
Yeah. There's some who say Karen.
I don't know. Them playing Parliament to me was weird, but back whenever this was supposed to be done, I don't know, what was it, 1800s, 1700s? I could imagine that because no TV, no internet. What are you going to do? Dress up like a man? That sounds totally sane. I mean,
I'd
I think
wear
I would
pants.
do that.
I'll tell you that right now.
I think I would
like
do that in public. Just to get around.
Wear pants in public?
Yeah, like put a mustache on, wear pants in public, nobody bothers you.
Literally. No,
like if you're a woman walking around public, I don't even think, could you even do that back then without an escort?
No, you had to have an escort.
Yeah, see, I would just put on pants. Exactly. Put all my hair in a hat.
If you were caught, you would have been arrested and sent to a sanatorium.
Yeah. Call yourself Lou.
Ugh.
No, Kendra would have to call herself Ken.
Oh my goodness. I'd love it. Yeah, I would just, because like their dresses have like 8 pieces and I'm just not feeling it, not ready, not interested in the slightest in that at all. Oh, so then in this, they actually address the fact, like one of my biggest gripes is the fact that they did not ask Amy to come home to see her sister dying. Like that was something that really bothered me in the book. I'm like, that's your sister, like cut your vacation short, come home, see her. And they like didn't really address it in the book, like why they didn't say anything. But in the movie they were like, oh, Beth says like don't tell her, like just let me pass, it's not going to change anything, she's here or not. But like it still really bothers me that they like chose that. Like, Amy deserves to say goodbye and say what she wants to her sister.
They put the two younger girls in separate bubbles. Like Beth was they had always called Beth their angel,
Mm-hmm.
even in real life. And then Amy was their own in her baby bubble.
Yeah.
It was like they were all purposely or subconsciously making sure she had this little perfect world
Mm-hmm.
for some reason.
Yeah. I know. And they're like, oh, she can't be tarnished by this sad circumstance. But it's like, it's still her sister. I don't understand why they were like, oh, whatever. Don't think about her too much.
Right? Let's just drop the bomb on her, when Beth actually does die.
Yeah.
Ta-da! You didn't even get
Ta-da.
to prepare for this.
I
She's just
know.
dead.
Like, they didn't even tell her in the movie that she was sick. Like, I think they hinted that she was kind of sick in the book, but they didn't even say anything in the movie. And they're like, hey, by the way, your sister's dead. There's that. It's like, okay.
Well, at the same time in the movie, they weren't covering that Aunt March was getting sick while in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So her health was suddenly declining, and they didn't show her after that. It felt like she disappeared. Oh, her health's declining. Ta-da, Joe, you get the house. Wait, what?
Yeah, literally. And then she gets the house before she's even with Mr. Bear. Like, this was supposed to be a whole thing that happens like a couple of years later. And they're like, hey, Aunt March is kind of sick. Also, now she's dead. Here you go, Joe. Want a mansion? Like, I know you live alone and you're single, but you have a mansion now. Like, what? And they didn't even say that, like, it sounded like in the movie that she left it to whoever wanted it because, Meg says, oh, this house is too big for me. Amy's like, me and Lori already got one. Like, we don't need a house. And Beth's, rip. So Joe's like, sure, I'll take the house, whatever. But it's like, in the book, she directly gave it to Joe.
I thought that's why she did give it to Joe, was because Amy already had one. Meg already had one. Beth died. And even if she didn't die, she could have just lived with old man Lawrence.
The comment in the movie is Joe says, Meg, I don't understand why she didn't give it to you. You have a family. And that's when Meg said, it's too big of a house for me to manage.
Okay, I thought for some reason that she like left it open-ended. And I was like, that's weird. But that makes more sense then. Oh, and then so I was like hoping that we were going to leave out Amy destroying Joe's writing, but no, we did not. That still happens, and then Amy still drowns.
Well, she doesn't drown.
She almost does. Like, she's pretty close. Like, she can't seem to swim for some reason. So
no, it's freezing cold, and your muscles seize up, and
she had a lot of dresses on.
Yes,
a lot.
Yeah. She's doing like some sort of jumping action though, so I think she was like kind of close to the bottom. She like goes down, then comes back up,
right.
Goes down.
Yeah. Well, again, they didn't de-age her.
Yeah.
Of course, she could reach the bottom.
I know. So I don't think she was like swimming. I think she was just kind of jumping, like going down, jumping back up. Also, so they did not show like how you're actually supposed to get out of ice, which I thought was kind of weird. Like, they allowed, so basically for ice, you have to fully spread out to cover as much surface area as possible. The weird thing to me is when you show Lori getting Amy out, he puts his arms on the edge and then they like cut and then they bring Amy out and she's like like, here you go, Amy, you're alive. But I'm like, we would have just lost Lori there because the ice would have just broken again. So there's that.
It didn't need to be accurate.
I guess not. I think I'm just reading too much into it, but I was like, huh, okay, weird.
I don't do ice, so I don't know anything. I watch Bear Grylls, and I've seen him come out of ice, and I think what he did was he's like, you have to find a place where the ice is still packed hard that's not going to fall in. So you have to keep swimming to the edge and just keep kind of trying to crawl out until the ice stops breaking. And then you just keep crawling.
Yeah, you can do that. Or you put your arms straight out your sides, like T-posing. And then you kick your back legs and let your body glide onto the ice from just your momentum of your back legs. And you take up as much surface area as possible. That way you like don't get hypothermia, trying to find thick ice.
And this is all in case, the water is still and you're not on flowing water.
Yeah.
Because that just sweeps you under.
At that point, if you're in ocean, I don't have any more tips, I live in Florida now. Like, I don't need any of these anymore. Like, we don't have ice.
Yeah, I'm in
So,
Vegas, so don't listen to us.
my understanding of this is like I wanted to go ice fishing once, so I watched some YouTube videos and then I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to do this anymore.
No, it's so cold. I was around ice fishing holes in Montana.
Yeah.
And the Puget Sound hasn't frozen over in decades.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on. What do we know?
Literally. Anyways, your lack of snow experts here. My next comment is Beth looks awful. They did a really good job at making her very sick and like scrawny and like dark eyes under the.
I honestly don't remember Beth at all.
I mean, that's kind of fair. She's like in it for like 3 seconds, and then they're like, she's dying, and you're like, oh, okay.
The only
nice to
one
meet you.
I really remember is Amy, and that's because she was my favorite in the movie.
Yeah, she was a really good actress, I think.
She just threw a lot of temper tantrums, and then she
Lots of
tells
shade.
Lori off. So I'm like, yes, come on, get it, girl.
I know she tells Lori off like every time she sees him, and I'm like, how did they fall in love again?
That sexual tension that they did not have in the book. Okay.
Literally though. So then we're at Meg being at a ball. So they had her go to a coming out ball instead of staying at Sally Mae's like she was supposed to. Like, I was like, okay, weird, because none of the girls went to coming out parties or balls or anything. And then they're like, you're gonna go to your first coming out ball now. And Meg's like, okay. And then they call her Daisy the entire time. And I was like, that didn't happen in the book. Like, they didn't call her Daisy. And I was like, why is this happening? That's not even close to Meg. Meg's already a nickname. So for what reason?
I thought they were trying to hide her identity. Was that what they were doing?
No, they're just being meanies.
I thought they were trying to hide her identity, like, oh, don't call her Meg because then they're going to know where she comes from. Let's call her Daisy so they can't figure out where she's from.
No, I think the girls were just being petty, to be honest.
Because she was the country bumpkin.
Yeah.
So they were just calling her, like, Daisy because they're like, Meg's ugly. You're ugly. Your name's Daisy now.
All right. I didn't get that at all.
I just think they were just being mean girls, to be honest.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it was supposed to be mean, but I thought the whole reason, because I think Lori goes up to her and he's like, why are they calling you Daisy? That's not your name. And
she's like, oh, it's just the name they call me.
Yeah. And so that's when I was like, oh, maybe they're trying to hide her, like where she comes from, so they don't think that, oh, yeah, I hang out with this country.
No, because she was at a coming out ball instead of being at Sally Mae's house. So, like, this is all the girls her age around the country are coming to this ball now.
Yeah, I thought she was just at a sleepover.
No. Yeah, she was in the book, but in the movie, for some reason, they're like, yeah, never mind, forget that. She doesn't have friends anymore. So, I don't know why, but that was a thing for some reason. Okay, so then the next thing is Joe's haircut. It is so bad. Like, I thought in the book they just like shaved it, but no, they like try and give her a little bit of hair left, but give her absolutely no style. So it's like almost this weird, like if you were going for a skater boy haircut, but your barber was blind and had a shaky hand and like didn't know what skater boys were, and you showed him one picture and then he looked at it, blinked for 3 seconds, and then threw the photo away. That's what that haircut looked like.
How did he look at it? He's blind.
Okay, you described it to him, and he's like, I can do this. There you go.
He took out all the good parts.
It's just the hair.
He said, I like this part and this part.
You have a knot. Like. You have a knot right here. We'll just cut around it.
I know. It was so bad. That was the ugliest haircut I've ever seen. Like, the boys don't even have that bad of a haircut. Like, I was like, okay, she's just going to shave her head. That'll be cute. Like, she can pull it off. And then they're like, just kidding. not for you. It was like, you know how everyone who cut their hair in a pixie cut over quarantine and now they're waiting for it to grow out? It's in the grow out phase. And then Lori says to Amy, it's like, do not marry Fred. And Amy's like, huh, that's funny. Don't say that to me because I've literally loved you my entire life. And I was like, whoa, 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 Amy. Slow your roll. That's a little bold for you, but okay.
That made sense to me though, because it was the only boy that they ever knew that they were around. He was handsome, and she was always jealous of what Joe had. So
yeah. I'm not surprised that Amy loved him the entire time. Like, it's not surprising. I'm not shocked. It's just I was surprised that she was that bold when she's supposed to be like the prim and proper one. I was like, okay, wild.
You know, sometimes you just reach that limit and you're like, that's it. That's how I got my husband.
Mood.
Yep.
Yeah, she just was like, and Laura's just like, okay. And then she rejects Fred and then comes home and her aunt's like, oh yeah, Lori's back in London. And she's like, I just told Fred I wouldn't marry him. So, because she's like, oh, me and Lori are going to get married now. And then it's like, nope, psych, fake news.
Yeah, he leaves. On the flip side, her outburst and then the way that they portrayed it in the movie, and he suddenly kisses her in public. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, literally, when they like get back together at the end and he's just like, Amy's like really sad, and then he just like grabs her face and kisses her. I was like,
yeah. Both of them are like completely unconventional.
Yeah, I was like, all right, okay, this is happening now, I guess. That's a thing I just witnessed. Sounds good to me. I don't know.
Yeah, and the way that it's described a little bit later on, everything was just moving so fast.
Yeah, it definitely was, because you were like gonna marry someone else, and then immediately, like not even like 4 days later, he's like, peace out, I'm going to London. And then she's like, oh, I'm distraught. And then he's like, hey, let's get married now. And she's like, yeah, okay.
All I could think was when they were explaining, well, things were just moving so fast. I'm like, yeah, because you were on a train and then probably a ship, had to have been a ship, to get back home. Oops, you're in my room. We should
There's one bed.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, that's how fast they moved.
I think that we should have gotten some sweet writing about that, but no, we had to stick with Joe the entire time, bland and boring.
I know, all that smut, and it was like she was so, is that like aromantic or something? She has no attraction.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the word, but it sounds
with
right
her
to me.
60-year-old man, Mr. Bear.
Bruh. That man was handsome as the day is long.
Yeah, because that one was handsome, not the one in the book. Okay?
He's 35.
In the book, they made him sound like he was 80. And he was a teacher.
I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say to you.
He was hitting
she was
on
also a
lady.
teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she was like 20. He was like
he's only 35.
104.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
We're jumping around, so I'm just going to whatever.
There was so many flashbacks. I don't know where I am.
Okay, so now, we are at Meg's wedding. Meg's wedding is super cute. I was like, love it. Small fairy tale, little idealistic wedding. But then at the wedding, they tell Amy, hey, you're going to come and spend Europe with me. And then Amy's like, oh, this is so great. I'm going to run and tell Joe. And Joe's like,
She was telling Marmee. Joe just happened to be next to her.
True, yeah. But I'm like, this is a weird conversation to have at a wedding. Like, oh, by the way, this isn't important enough. Let's also plan a trip to Europe right now.
But that was just Amy's way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it's Aunt March's way. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, but remember, Aunt March didn't get married, so...
True, so it doesn't matter to her.
Meg just disappointed her.
Yeah, and Meg had just disappointed because they were fighting like towards the end. Whenever she was leaving, she was like, "Oh, be prepared to be poor for the rest of your life." And Meg was like, "Well, at least I'll be happy."
Yeah, I was like,
But you skip the part when Daddy comes home. You guys don't watch this show, but Daddy was in Breaking Bad. And he was also in Better Call Saul. So when he comes
That's
home,
what I knew him from. I was trying to figure out, I was like, why do I know this man? And I was like, I've seen you so many times. I don't know who you are. Better Call
so when
Saul.
he comes home, my husband's like, is that? No. He played in this movie? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I look up and there's Better Call Saul. And I'm like, oh no, that doesn't work for me.
The way they made him look absolutely ancient in this movie too. And I'm like, he's supposed to be like max like
and the
40,
movie
50 maybe.
Full of Morals has Better Call Saul in it. The like shady lawyer that you call when you want to get out of trouble.
Literally.
That's now funny. I understand why Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Bear were his companions. Oh, God.
Your hate train of every man in this book really gets to me. Well, like anyone that's older than 20 out of the book.
I don't hate Lori.
He's not older than 20.
Well, kind of he is.
He's like max 21.
I don't hate looking at Mr. Bear in the movie. I just hate him in the book because he's like 80 and then he goes after Joe, who has no interest in him at all.
The eye roll I just gave you was fully deserved.
He gets older, Amy gets younger.
Oh my goodness. Every time we talk about Mr. Bear, he gets another 20 years added to his life.
Well, they said he had gray hair, and that's when you get gray hair.
I don't know. I got my first gray hair at 11, so.
Well, that technically you'd be like 35. No.
Yeah, according to Little Women, I could be 12, so. Oh my goodness. Lori's proposal to Joe is the most extra thing I've ever seen in my entire life. They're like screaming at each other, and she's like, "We will never be happy." And he's like, "But I love you." And I'm like, okay. They're doing it on like a hillside, and Lori storms off, and Joe falls to the ground and cries. And I'm just like, what's going on here? Like, this was supposed to happen in like Lori's backyard. He was like, "Hey, do you want to get married?" And Joe's like, "No." And he's like, "I'm gonna die now."
Was Beth still alive when Meg had her wedding?
Yes. Oh, in the movie, yes. But I don't remember in the story.
She was, right? I think.
I don't know.
All I remember is in the movie, Old Man Lawrence goes and asks Aunt March to dance, and she's like, "Oh no, that's not happening." And I'm like, maybe if you would have danced with him, he wouldn't have been after your niece.
So true. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay, and then so in the movie, Lori brings Amy and Aunt March home because Aunt March is ill, instead of him being like, "Oh, I had to marry Amy to bring Amy home." And I was like, okay, sure. Sounds good to me, I guess. I don't know. And then the passionate kissing. And then Joe writes a letter to Lori saying that she's like, "I didn't mean to actually turn you down. What if we got married now? Ask me again." And like, they're also flashing to like them being Amy and Lori being engaged and married now. And then they're like Joe putting the letter in the post. And I'm like, oh, this is going to go horribly wrong here. Like,
I don't know why they didn't develop that part of the story. How great would that have been if Lori had gotten that letter?
I would have been so uncomfortable. It would have ruined the relationship between Amy and Joe, I think, honestly.
Exactly. That was what I was waiting for. You don't know how bad I wanted that to happen. I was like, oh my God, is there drama about to happen?
I was like, no, please, no, I don't want to see it.
Because you 100% know he would have left Amy for Joe in a heartbeat.
I don't know why they added that in. I mean, obviously,
I don't know either.
He didn't get the letter, and the post box was mentioned in one of the flashbacks. They all got a key, but then they never used it.
Literally.
That was like a huge part of the book too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was the boring part, but they were trading letters constantly and they never show
Yeah.
it until the end of the movie. Oh, I put my letter in there. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
No.
you
Yeah.
almost wouldn't have known. Like, had I not read the book and I would have saw that part, I would have been like, "What is this? Is she a
Mhm.
mailman now? Like, what is going on?"
Yeah. It's very strange. And it's just like, also in the book, I was pretty sure it was like a garden, like a little greenhouse they were putting these letters in, and they had a slot. Like, I didn't think it was an actual mail.
I thought it was a hedge wall in between their two
Yeah, I thought it
lands.
was built into the hedge wall, but it was like a little greenhouse thing that they were using as like a mail room.
I just
No,
remember one part of the book, Lori was like, "I was looking into Joe's window and blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Your house is like so fucking far."
I
In the
know.
movie.
I was like, yeah, in the book they're like basically they're like 2 feet apart, and Laura's like, hello. And then in the movie, he's like trekking it. It's a mile away. He's putting on his like work boots. And he's like, I'll make it home eventually. It's just like he's like looking up at Joe's window as he's like walking back to his house. And then he's like, gotta get my step count. I'll just walk into my backyard and I'll get 10,000 steps again. It was just kind of funny to me because it's like there's no way he could have possibly have seen, and like that scene where he sees all of the March girls go and marching to the Hummels. They're just like in their dining room eating, and he like looks out and they're all on the. And then it's like later on, they're like, "Scratch that you saw that previously. It's actually a trek to get to that house. There's no way you can look in to any of the windows." So, okay, so then, Joe arrives home. Well, Lori arrives home. Joe is sitting on the couch, and he's like, "Oh, hey, by the way, me and Amy are married." And she's like, "I didn't even know you guys are engaged." And he's like, "Oh yeah, we got engaged, and then we immediately got married in like 3 minutes. Sorry you couldn't be there, but like
But things were moving so fast and I was
so
like,
fast." And I was like, "Yeah, they were, because she was about to marry someone else. Also, she didn't tell her entire family that she was supposed to marry Fred. That conversation never happened." So, like, as far as they know, Amy was just gallivanting around trying to, hang out, apparently marry anyone that the wind blew the right way. She was going to get married. So that happened.
right? Their baby of the family leaves on just a European vacation, no big deal.
Yeah.
And comes
Leaves
back.
at like the age of like 14, comes back. She's like, "Hey, I'm married now." That happened.
Right? Ta-da!
Ta-da. I know Beth died, but as soon as Beth died, I was like, may as well get married. So there's
He
that.
consoled me.
He consoled me. I cried, and then we said our vows and got married.
I like it. Okay, no big deal, and it works out. But then at the final clip, baby.
I know. Literally, we're gonna talk about that when we get to the final end. But I was like, okay. Anyways, so Joe is like, "Oh, great! I'm so happy you guys are married. BRB, I'll be right back." And then like runs to the letterbox, like no brisk walking. She like probably sprints. She grabs the letter out, rips it up, throws it into a lake, and she's like, "I have no emotions anymore. Never mind. Bye."
There goes my heart.
Yeah, they made it seem like she actually learned to love Lori instead of her being just lonely. She was like actually legitimately depressed.
She did learn to love Lori. I 100%
I don't think so.
think that
I
she
don't think
loved that
so.
man with
No.
all of her heart.
No. You're telling me you would even look in the presence of Lori when you got Mr. Hunk, Frederick Bear, looking beautiful with chocolate brown eyes, curly hair, and a beautiful, wonderful accent. You're telling me you would still look at scrawny old Lori, who looks like he's 15 years old maximum.
He wasn't there though. Mr. Bear wasn't there. And
I'm
according to
telling
the
you, if
book, he
I
was
knew
like
this beautiful
100.
man existed, if I knew this beautiful, gorgeous man existed, I would look at Lori and be like, Lori would be like, "I love you, Joe." Like, I'm sorry, no thank you. Frederick Bear is like, "Joe, my darling, you gorgeous soul," and Joe's like, Oh, Mr. Bear. And like Lori's like, hey Joe, what's up? And I'm like, like, no, thank you. I'm not about it. Absolutely not. No, thank you.
That's the best reaction I've ever seen.
He looks like a man baby. He's like a toddler. He's an infant. Frederick Bear has his life together. He's a world-renowned scholar. He's going to California. I love the son. Sounds good to me. Great. Like, let's go. Awesome. And Lori's like, I live off of my father's money. And that's it. Welcome to my rich house. You'll move from your house 2 feet over to the left and we'll go move right in. I'm not interested. No, thank you. You think I want to live in this small town in the countryside of New York for the rest of my life? Absolutely not, Lori. No, thank you. You already went to Europe and didn't take me, so I'm not really interested in continuing a conversation in which I'm still going to live next to my mother and I can apparently watch her eat dinner at night, wave from my giant 15-person parlor in which, I eat all of my fine dining occasions. They only sit at the one end next to each other. There are like 15 seats. So I guess if I'm really mad at you that day, you sit at one end, I sit at the other, and we glare across from each other. But like, no, thank you. I'm not interested.
You just described Amy's life.
Literally. But at least Amy got to go to Europe and she just... Could you imagine you look at your childhood home next door and because they're not going to move. They've got the grandfather's house. Assumably at the end of the movie, the grandfather's dead. Okay, like they don't say that, but they're like, what are you going to do in that big house all alone? So assumably he, like I think he's dead, and Amy's got this giant house with just Lori and their soon-to-be dead infant because they named her Beth. So
I told my husband that part. No kidding. He's like, why the fuck did they do that?
I don't know. The name's obviously cursed. Like, you could have at least named her Bethany, Get like slightly off if you kind of want to remember your sister, but like also not have a cursed infant. There were some options here. And they were like, no, we'll name her Beth. Maybe she'll die because we couldn't get an abortion.
You know what's hilarious, though, is my husband has seen, like, I think the 1997 version Little Women because his sisters made him watch it. Nice. And he was like, I actually enjoyed that one. This one, I don't know what's wrong with it.
When I told people I was going to watch this version, they're like, why didn't you watch the other one? And I was like, I saw Emma Watson and I said, say less. I'll be honest.
See, anytime anybody watches that old one from the 90s, the instant, oh my goodness, you look like Claire Danes. Yeah, I look like child Claire Danes. I don't have her cheekbones now.
I always get that I look like, I can never remember her name. The only similarities we have is we both have dark hair. And that's literally it. We're both white. We have dark hair. And that's the only similarity. I will think of her name and I'll send it to you on Instagram. I just don't remember. But she's like a singer. And every time I'm like, okay. Sure. And it's funny because she's like way paler than I am. Like I'm absolutely covered in freckles. So I look tanner than I am. But it's like the only similarities is we both have black hair. I'm like, all right, sure, yeah, that sounds great to me.
Thanks.
So then Joe gets the house before she even is with Mr. Bear. They're all walking through it, and they're like, "How weird, cool, Joe, that you got this gigantic house for no reason." And Joe's like, "It'll be a school for boys and girls." And I'm like, that part really irked me in the book because I was like, for what reason would Joe want a school for only boys when all the schools are for only boys? And then in the movie, they're like, boys and girls both deserve a school. And I was like, yeah, they do. What? Like, why would you make this whole school just for boys? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Amy got her hand BDSM'd and you're not going to make a school for girls? Like, what's wrong with you?
Literally. A fact.
Plus, she had been a tutor for girls before that.
Yeah. So I really didn't understand why in the book she's like, JK, only boys for Joe.
Maybe. Oh, brother. Kendra, shush. Maybe because the next book is Joe's boys.
Oh. She didn't have that planned when she wrote that part, okay? Like, she could have changed it.
Yep.
And then Mr. Bear's in town, and I was like, oh, I actually like their budding romance. And he's literally there one day, and he's like, I have to leave to go to California. And like he leaves, and Joe's like, and Amy's like, you absolute buffoon, you moron, you monster of a human being. Let's go, get in the carriage. And Joe's like, oh, what? Oh, what to me? And then Amy's like, get in the freaking carriage right now. We're going to go catch this man because you have no other option. She's like, we're not going to California. I'm not going to sit in a train with you that long. Let's just go get in the car. We're going to go to the station and you're going to marry this man in 3 seconds. The movie's about to end, you know, like we've got to wrap this up. And
Like he's like, so you can come visit me in California. And she's like, oh, that's nice. I don't think I ever will.
yeah, she's like, I have no reason to be in California. And I'm just imagining Amy's just like,
yep, idiot, you love him.
yeah, and then she like, so everyone jumps into the carriage. The entire family gets in this very small carriage, and she's like, let's go. And then they like rush the train station. Amy's pushes Joe out of the carriage. I don't even know if the carriage stops by the time Amy kicks her out. And then like Joe's like looking around, and then Mr. Bear's like, Joe? And Joe's like, Mr. Bear? And then they like just kiss. And I'm like, okay, sure. Sounds good.
I did like that they cut back to the publisher, and he was like, they had pointed it out in the extras that at the very beginning, the publisher tells her, no, these women need to be married or dead. That is the only way this is going to work. And so by the time it got to the end, he's like, no, you need to make sure she's married. And Joe's like, that's not the real story.
Yeah.
Because in real life, Louisa did not get married. It was, no, that's how this is going to get published. She's married or she's dead. And so it cut back to Amy yelling at her, and they took off to go. I was like, oh, is that how the story got changed?
Yeah, I thought it was funny because I also thought that too. Like when I found out that these were two originally different, I think that she was like, oh, who has Joe met in this entire book that we could possibly go back to? And then she's like, I guess Mr. Bear's fine. Like that works for me. And then Mr. Bear, having not seen anybody for 3 years or written, he's like, hey, surprise, I'm back. I'm just in your weird small town in the country because I'm on business, obviously. And Joe's like, what business? And he goes, the businessy kind. And Joe's like, good enough for me. He's totally here by happenstance. Sounds great. So that happens. And then, you know, now he also runs the school. There's kids running everywhere, all over the house. We're uncertain whether, like, the way it's kind of written, it's like maybe Joe didn't actually get married, but like this is just a clever cover story. So it's like, okay, because they make the same actress for Joe play. They don't say Louisa May Alcott. They basically imply that this is Joe, kind of. So they're like, make that same actress be Joe going to the publisher
with another fake name. I was like, wait, what?
Did she have another fake name? I didn't hear what.
Yes,
they
for
said.
for the book.
Yeah, I didn't
like,
see
well,
if it said a name on it. Yeah,
it did. Right at the very end, when it was getting gold foiled, it got stamped.
Okay, tell me what it says if you can find it on Google, because I did not see the name on there.
I'm 100% sure that ending was not real.
That's
that
what
he
it
just
feels
came
like.
to the school and was just teaching there.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking. Oh, it does say Louisa May Alcott. It says, wait. It actually says L.M. Alcott on the book. Yeah. I found the YouTube clip of it.
Okay, good. Because for some reason, I was like, why is that not L.M.?
It's really small, so it looks like it's
Okay.
different letters, but if you look
Okay.
really close, it's LM Alcott. So basically, they had Joe also playing LM Alcott to then be like these anytime Joe went to a publishing house, it was actually LM Alcott going to the publishing house. So it's really weird because it does the thing in the book where it takes you out of the narrative a lot. So knowing that, you're like, what's real, what's fake? Like, how close was this supposed to be to her life? Because I feel like she used her sisters as inspiration, but I didn't think that this was supposed to be a representation of Louisa May Alcott's life. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of weird that they did that at the end to me.
Now I feel like it was just her life. Like she was just telling her life story.
Yeah, they definitely wanted you to feel that way, but I don't know if that's how it was actually supposed to be. So basically, my last note is the bookbinding scene was honestly the most pleasing thing I've ever watched on television. I was like, why is this? It's just so relaxing and it's just aesthetically pleasing. And now, overall opinions. I actually really liked the movie. I felt like it was a lot better than the book. I don't know if I'd ever read the book again, but I would probably watch that movie again because I felt like it amped up a lot of the drama of the actual movie or book, I meant. What do you guys think?
I'd rather go back and watch the 1990s one.
I feel like I need to know what that one's like just because I need to see Christian Bale trying to be Laurie. Like, I just need to know that.
Probably watching this has now ruined it, and you're going to be like, no, no, but that's the one that I prefer. The actresses were good enough that, yes, if it was like somebody said, hey, I'm going to watch Little Women, will you watch it with me? Sure.
Yeah.
Does
And
that
I'll
one
try
have both books in it? Part 1 and part 2, or is it just
It's both.
that's both?
They get older.
Is there flashbacks?
No, it doesn't do the flashback.
Oh, it's linear?
Yes.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah. That's why when they did the flashbacks for this one, I was like, no, no. And then it kept doing it. No.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
I thought we were going to get bookbinding, cool, flashback, all of that up to, oh, look, now we're at bookbinding. No.
See, I was like, I texted Kendra and I was like, oh, it's only part 2? Huh, that's weird. I didn't know that. And then she's like, oh, just wait. And I was like,
Yeah, because I
oh.
messaged her and I was like, have you watched it yet? No. Just wait.
All they had
bouncing.
to do was put the dates. That literally,
Yeah.
that's all they had to
It
do.
would have been so much easier. Like, they gave you one time, they're like, oh, by the way, this was 7 years ago. And you're like, okay. And then it was like, are we back to the present now?
Yep. Ping pong, ping pong.
Yeah, literally. And then I just wish they would have recasted them for the younger age, just so you can like visually see, oh, okay, we're in the past now. Instead, they were like, you better have read the book, and if not, this is not going to be a fun thing for you to watch.
Right. Oh yeah. To have read the book was what made sense of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, like I liked how Greta did it. So I now am curious about her other movie, Lady Bird.
I have no idea.
I forgot she wrote Lady Bird.
She did Lady Bird, and that's the same actress. Shoot, I already forgot her name. Oh, I can't. It's the name I can't say. It's like Saoirse Ronan with the weird spelling. So the gal that played Jo is who plays in Lady Bird.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen Lady Bird yet.
Yeah, I don't even remember what it was about because I didn't pay attention to it, but I am now curious to watch it.
Yeah. Kendra, any final thoughts besides your creepy old men tangent?
So I like the movie because it dropped all the moral stuff. Mr. Bear was not 100, and old man Mr. Lawrence was not as creepy as he was in the book. Although I'm telling you, my husband got this same vibe.
Oh my goodness.
So it's not just me, okay? Laurie was nice to look at. He was so scrawny. I would like to see what he'd look like older, like Mr. Bear's age in the movie, not in the book. Because they're not the same. It's not. He lied about his age. Also, if we could just replace the more realistic father with not Better Call Saul, that would have made it 100 times better because he gets con artists out of jail. So I don't see how that works at all. There's no way he could be a minister.
I know. I was like, It's a weird choice, but all right. And I felt like he was a little older than I imagined because, most people in that time frame had kids pretty young. So like she should have been max like 40-ish. But I feel like because they aged up all the girls when they were so young, they had to age up the mom too. So
The best part in the movie is when Frederick shows up to their house and he tells them that he's going west because they're less particular about immigrants. And the dad is like, oh, maybe I should go west because they're less particular about the immigrants. And the wife is like, yeah, maybe not because you're not an immigrant. You should just stay home.
yeah, I was like, okay, why?
That's so random.
Yeah, so
But
random.
it kind of showed the mom, because you know how she was like, oh, I had a temper too when I was your age. It kind of showed her temper there where she was like, men, they're so stupid.
Mood. But yeah, that's all we have for you guys, unless you guys have anything else you want to add.
I'm just glad that the old men did not get what they wanted at the end of this book and movie.
What Kendra thought they wanted.
Literally. Kendra's side plot. Anyways. Thank you
My
guys
husband thought the same thing. I'm pretty sure
thank
Aaron,
you specifically to Jessica for coming on.
I'm pretty sure Aaron would have been like, wait a minute, I see where this is going, if he would have finished watching it.
Oh, I kicked him out. I was
Exactly.
like, movie's done. Get out of here.
You should have waited just to see.
Oh my goodness. I'm screaming. All right. Well, thank you both for coming on and joining me and giving your opinions on the older men in this book. Because Kendra's been on a lot. Jessica, where can all the people the internet find you if you want to share any socials or anything?
You can find me on Instagram at fawnberries_books.
And that'll be in the description. And Kendra, all the internet people?
I'm at KE Radke Universe on all platforms.
And then they also have a combined book podcast.
Oh, yeah. We do this on a monthly basis.
Basically, what you just witnessed here is their entire podcast. So,
and that's at West Coast Booksters.
Except on Twitter. Then it's WE
Twitter.
Booksters. I've memorized that. I've typed out so much. I've memorized your handles now.
Yeah, WC Booksters.
Yeah, so follow them, check out their podcast, and we will catch you on the next episode. Not with you guys, but like I'll see you guys again. They'll see you when they listen to your podcast. But yeah, thank you guys, and we'll catch you all in the next episode. Bye.
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 Thank you all so much for joining me on this episode of the Bailey Bookish podcast. As I said in the beginning, we will be reading 1984 next, so please be sure to start reading that if you would like to, not get spoilers. We will also be streaming on Friday, Among Us, so if you want to join, chat with me, all that fun stuff, then head over to twitch.tv. Please consider subscribing to the Patreon account. It's really, really helpful. I would really, really appreciate it. It's what helps this podcast become a little more than a labor of love, but I would really, really appreciate it. You get show notes, you get some bloopers, and then eventually I am trying to make some specific episodes for the Patreon account, and I will let you all know on here when that becomes available. Also, if you would like to see anything on Patreon, please do not hesitate to send me a message on Instagram or, comment on one of my posts anywhere, because I do really want to make this something that is kind of a community for you. So whatever you all want to see, let me know and I will try and make it happen. Yeah, I think that's about all we have. So we will catch you in the next episode. Our logo was designed by my little sister, Sarah. Our Theme song is by Raphael Crux on freepd.com. And that's all I have. I will catch you all in the next episode. Bye!